Welcome to the Get Sculpted podcast. We're your hosts, Tiana,
Jordana,
and Marilyn.
This podcast is all about cutting through the noise and giving you the real deal on fat loss, muscle building, and what it really takes to build your 2.0 sculpted self, inside and out. Our motto is to work smarter, not harder. We'll break down science-based and actionable strategies to optimize your metabolism, ditch the diets, and create a sustainable, fit, and healthy lifestyle that actually works for you. So if you're ready to get stronger, not just skinnier, and embrace a body you love, hit that subscribe button and let's get sculpted.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Get Sculpted podcast. Okay, ladies, today we are going to kick off this episode with a very serious question for our listeners. Okay, so if you are tuning in, listen very, very closely. What if the real reason you are not achieving your health and fitness goals has nothing to do with your body, your age, or how busy your schedule is? What if the thing that is actually holding you back is what's going on between your ears? Mm-hmm. And by that, we mean your thoughts. So that's what we're talking about today. Something we know that every single woman deals with. I know I have dealt with it. I'm sure you ladies have as well. And that is self-limiting beliefs, okay? These are the stories that stop us from taking action, right? And these thoughts, they feel so real and so true, but we're going to level with you. It's actually just fear. Fear is what's holding you back. But what we don't realize is that these fears, they're not just sabotaging your fitness goals. They can actually be sabotaging your relationships, your career, and your happiness. So that is what we're talking about today. We are going to break down the 5 most common self-limiting beliefs that keep women stuck. We're going to talk about how to reframe those into something that is more empowering. And because you know that we are all about taking action, we are going to give you some simple, practical steps to start rewriting those stories in your head. But before we do that, I do want to stress one thing. And this is something that was told to me. I'm a big mental health advocate. My therapist tells me this all the time. The thoughts and beliefs that you tell yourself are not always fact. In fact, most of the time, they're not. They're just stories. So we are all about rewriting those today so you can build that body, that life that you want. Because we are in January. We know that those goals are real. So let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you ready, ladies?
I'm so ready.
Let's hit up self-limiting belief number 1. Here we go. I'm too old to get fit or make change. How often have you heard that, ladies? Have you heard that?
So often.
In your coaching travels?
Too often. And I'm going to start by saying, look at Martha Stewart. If you haven't watched the Netflix documentary, that girl is always reinventing herself. And she was on Sports Illustrated at 83. So
I love that.
Goals.
So let's break this one down, okay? And we're going to talk about it is totally false. So we'll get that out of the way. There's no expiration date on getting healthy. In fact, I would argue that prioritizing your health actually gets more important as you age, especially during perimenopause and the years beyond that. You need to be strength training. You need to be building and maintaining your muscle, your bone density. You have to be fueling your body and you need to be moving. So here's the reframe. Anytime you catch yourself saying, oh, I'm too old, I can't get fit, I can't make change, tell yourself age does not define what you're capable of. Your mindset does and your actions do. So if you tell yourself, I'm too old, I'm too weak.
Must be perimenopause.
Right. You're not going to take action. And so, yeah, you are going to lose muscle. You are going to lose strength. You're going to do all of those things. You're going to make that your reality.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So we love talking about our clients because they're incredible. So I actually do want to share one example here. I have a client, Tammy. If you're listening, you're amazing. Tammy's in her 60s, okay? And we've talked about this many times, how she is more active than people half her age. You know, Tammy is rafting, skiing, cycling. She lifts so heavy in the gym. She travels. I would say she's living her best life. Like, that's goals for me.
Amazing.
Right? And she's proof that age, it isn't a barrier. We get to redefine what's possible. So that's the first self-limiting belief we're going to bust through today.
I love that because there's also not fitness related, but just more life related. There's a show on Netflix called Later Daters.
Oh, never heard of it.
It's been out for like a month.
I've seen it.
Okay, you saw it, T?
No, I didn't see it, but I want to watch it.
So what I loved about it was they're taking people in their, 50s, 60s.
Right.
I think even like there's someone in their early 70s, and they're teaching them how to date in this next phase of life and fall in love again. And some of them are like, I dated when there was no cell phones or there was no internet. Like
the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, I don't know what an eggplant emoji means. Like who texts who? Like it was hilarious. And it just goes to show, like, you're never too old to get fit.
No.
You're never too old to make a change. Everyone deserves to live their best life, whether it's in love or in fitness. And it was so beautiful to see men, women, everyone just stepping out of their comfort zones, getting a little coaching. So Coach Logan, she goes in and she looks at your life and the habits that you have and coaches you.
I got to watch this tonight.
Yeah, check it out because this is a great way to reframe this limiting belief. And they were so inspiring going out and finding love again.
I love that. And I always tell myself, like, I live by that motto too. And what I remind myself is, you know, we got two legs, two arms, a head, like a body. We have it in us to do it. And when we start saying, oh, well, it must be my hormones or my age or whatever, you take action according to that belief system that you've developed. So I think that was a really good reframe there, Mare.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. All right, let's hit up self-limiting belief number 2. What do we have?
Okay, another one. And this is applicable to a lot of people, but I would say very relatable to those who have young children. And that is, I don't have time to prioritize myself. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know if anyone actually believes this anymore. I think people say it, but I think deep down they know that they're just not making it a priority because we make time for what's important, right? Like if someone said, you have to learn tap dancing in 12 weeks or you're going to die.
Yeah, you would be on that tap dancing floor.
I would be tap dancing all night.
Be buying those shoes off Amazon and be like, let's go.
Yeah. What would you do? I would hire a tap dancing instructor, number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, I would dedicate a block of time to my tap dancing every day.
Is anybody else picturing T
totally
tap dancing
100%.
right now?
And I'm not a tap dancer or any dancer, but you better believe I would be tapping my little heart out because I wouldn't say I don't have time. Well, gosh, my life depends on it, right?
Right.
But this might sound dramatic, but your life does depend on being fit, healthy, and strong. And we said this in a previous episode, but that consistency and taking action through the hard times is what gets you there. So the reframe is that taking care of yourself is not a punishment. It's actually adding to your investment in your health. So it's putting deposits in your health bank is what I say. So it's not like, oh, what a pain in the butt. Like I have to do this 1 hour. It's actually to allow you to do all the things that you want to do. So go back and listen to that previous episode after this about vision setting. Sorry, what were you going to say?
It's self-full, not selfish, to prioritize yourself.
Absolutely. And it ties into what we said about the vision setting. The reframe here is that you want to make it bite-sized. And if you've ever read Atomic Habits, it's one of my favorite books. It basically says like, we're human. You don't want to set yourself up for failure. You want to certainly reframe it. When you start reframing it as, I just need to make the time, you're no longer saying like, well, the time is not even there.
Right.
Then you can say like, okay, well, how can I make the time in a way that I can stay consistent? And that could mean like, okay, I'm going to dedicate, I'm not going to do an hour 5 days a week. If I'm doing nothing, I'm going to do 30 minutes just 3 times a week and stack wins.
Yes.
That's the goal. And then once you stack wins, you start to feel good. And then you're going to add more deposits to your health bank. When you're depositing into your regular bank, you're going to start small and then your investments are going to grow. So it's the exact same thing.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
All right. Are we ready for self-limiting belief number 3?
Sure am.
All right. Let's do it.
So number 3 is I've tried everything and nothing works for me. I have heard this more times than I can count, probably on every single initial call with a potential client or a conversation with someone I meet who inevitably ends up talking about health and fitness. And here's what I want to say. The average person thinks anywhere from 60 to 80,000 thoughts in a day. But what is so concerning to me is 75% of those are negative. And the research says that 95% of them are repetitive thoughts. So when we're talking about self-limiting beliefs, you know, just like what you were saying, Mare, it's not always our story. Like we have to ask ourselves, whose voice is that? Like whose truth was that got implanted there?
Generational trauma.
Yeah, that you picked up along the way and decided to just keep repeating to yourself. So when you say to yourself, I've tried everything and nothing works for me, first of all, you haven't tried everything.
No, you haven't.
Right? You just haven't found what works for you right now. And the second piece I love is like, you can't fail if you don't stop. Like if you just keep going, if you just continue to pivot, you can't fail because you're always trying. And so if you take the failure, quote unquote, as a lesson instead. It's about finding what does work for you. And for me, failure is part of the process. It's knowing what doesn't work, and that narrows it down to what will eventually work. And that's how you grow. So you got to think of yourself like an explorer or a scientist when it comes to your fitness journey, right?
That's what I always think of scientists. I mean, I have family in science, and I always think like when you hear these stories, inventions or like these discoveries, it wasn't a one and done. Do you know how many failures it took? How many experiments and how many things had to happen to get to that point? And each time you, and I'm using air quotes, fail, it gives you an opportunity to regroup. Okay, what can I do differently? That's actually what propels progress.
Exactly.
Right?
Because you will find yourself in the same situations over and over and over again, whether it's in fitness, in health, in relationships, in business, whatever it is, parenting. Until you find the way that works, you will repeat that scenario over and over again. So collect the data, take a different perspective, take out the emotion from it, and really be able to analyze the situation of what happened when you went to that birthday party and you left with a stomach ache, or when you went out for date night and you ended up getting drunk, or when you missed a whole week of workouts because you were stressed out.
It's a lesson.
It's a lesson.
Failure is an inevitable part of success.
100%.
Exactly. And you can gather that data and then reframe it into how you want to navigate that same situation differently next time.
Yeah.
It's what we do with our clients in their check-ins.
Yeah. I always tell
exactly.
them fact over feeling. Like, yes, we hold space for feeling. It's not that we discount it, but fact over feeling is what's going to keep this moving forward.
100%.
So totally agree.
Absolutely. Mar, do you want to hit us up with number 4?
Yes. Okay. I've definitely heard this one. Self-limiting belief number 4. I'm not the kind of person who can stick with things. I'm just not disciplined enough. So I'm going to let our listeners in on a little secret. Nobody wakes up with perfect discipline. I would like to meet that person, but discipline is a skill. It's not a personality trait. And like you've been saying, it's built by daily, consistent habits. I feel like consistent is going to be one of those words we use a bajillion times on this podcast, but it's true. If you think about it, it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. So the reframe here, if you're telling yourself you're the kind of person who's just not disciplined, discipline grows from action. You need to keep telling yourself that. You don't need motivation to start. What you need is action.
Stacking wins.
That's right. And that's what creates motivation. I feel like we've all done some kind of posts like this, but a lot of people think that, you know, motivation is what's going to get them started. And then they'll take that action, they'll see results, when it's actually action that starts it. Results stem from that action. And then your motivation and momentum comes from that, right? So this has also come up a few times, but a tip to break through this particular self-limiting belief is pick a small, doable goal each day. So I think that's like the big take-home message from so many of the episodes we've done is it's not 0 to 100.
Yes.
This could be as small as like waking up and drinking a glass of water when you wake up, right? Or going for a 5-minute walk. T, you mentioned that. Like if you can't do half an hour, can you do 5 minutes? And then,
it adds up.
Right. Do it and then celebrate it because you've now set yourself up for success. You're like, yes, I did that 5 minutes. Then you'll do it again and again. And then you'll say to yourself, I can do 6 minutes. I can do 10 minutes. Before you know it, you're at half an hour. But that has been built with small wins over and over and over. So that's the big one for that. Discipline, you're not born with it. You got to work for it.
Absolutely.
And let's round this out. Self-limiting belief number 5.
All right. So I have a little bit of a positive rant that will help you about this one. It's the belief is that it's selfish to spend time and money and focus on myself. And I think that we can tie this back to people saying, I don't have the money. And sometimes, listen, I'm not saying some people don't have 2 pennies to rub together. We're not talking about that. But I want the reframe to be this. We all invest in things that we see value in, depending on the lifestyle that we built, right? Like some people are renovating their houses, sending their kids to hockey and
dance and
dance. Thank you. I was like, I know there's a lot of money sucker stuff. You know, I'm not saying these things are bad. They're going out to fancy dinners, Michelin star restaurants, or not even doing fancy things like that. It might just be doing things for other people, right? Like the example with the family. And they might think, well, of course, I don't have it in my budget to do anything for me. Like, why would I do a bell and whistle thing? But the reframe there is that, let's say you invest into working with a coach. Let's use this example because that is going to help you in many ways, not just with your physique, but to build habits that are going to keep you the type of person who's lean, fit, sculpted, strong. It's going to benefit all areas of your life to have these traits. You're going to build discipline. So it's not just like, I think people think of it as, okay, I'm just going to pay for the macros and the meal plan. And that's kind of a bell and whistle. Like, I don't need that. Well, it's not about that. It's about having the lifestyle ultimately that is going to help you be a better mom, spouse, friend, person. And that is where the value comes in. But the thing is, people are so in this ingrained belief, especially moms, that like, well, I put everyone before me, like with my time, with my money, with my effort, with everything, that there's absolutely no value in pouring into myself. And the reframe, you know, before I kind of share exactly how we're going to reframe this, I want to flip it back to the listener and say, like, how has that belief served you? Like, you might feel like you've totally lost yourself and you're not really being your best self. And at the end of the day, I truly believe that when we lead with being our best selves, everyone in our life benefits. Would you guys agree with that?
1,000%. I'm living proof.
Absolutely. It's generational health too, right? Like, I mean, this could be a podcast episode in and of itself, but
should be.
I feel like a lot of us grew up with, and again, love my mother. She's amazing. She's incredible, but she really did put everything and everyone before herself. And I feel like that was almost the messaging that was kind of told to us. I feel like we're that generation that kind of came from that, like everybody, everything, you're the mom, you do everything. And it's not to say that you don't, but where do you fit in, right? And it's like, I look at the women in my life now who are, you know, 50s, 60s, beyond, and I'm like, I want them to be thriving. Like, because now the kids are grown up. Now it's like, you've got all this time and it's like, you still haven't found yourself, right? Like,
yeah.
All that's left is you and you don't know who you are anymore. Yep.
I hear that so many times. Women will say, I've lost myself. I don't know who I am anymore. When I look in the mirror, I don't know who's looking back at me. And I just think, like, it's sad if you had put that much time and effort into yourself. And the other thing too is, like, I always think, what is the lesson? What are you teaching the littles in your life? I want
absolutely
all of the kids in my life, but particularly the females, to know that they matter. They factor in. They should be number one. Like, you're the leading lady of your show, right? Of your story.
100%. And I want to share a really small thing, actually. Like, I remember talking to like my therapist once, and I was like, I don't know what it is about me, but I know other moms will say, like, I feed everyone first. And I'm like, girl, I don't do that. I feed myself first. Like, we come home and I'm like, I need a 5-minute snack. And then I feed everyone else. And she's like, well, are you feeding your kids too? And assuming that I am. And I'm like, of course I am. She's like, well, then that's fine. She's like, who cares? Because my thing is, like, listen, if I give myself a little snack and I'm just like calm, cool, collected, fed, I can just do the whole process of feeding everyone with ease. So that's a tiny little example, but it's the same thing with, I stack my wins with training in the morning. I've gotten that in my day. I feel good. I filled my bucket. Now let's do this. Like, let's get the kids out the door, get the shoes on, and do all the rest.
And who are you when you show up as your best self? Like, when you show up depleted and tired and lost and upset and angry and resentful, you might be checking the boxes of your day, but who are you really? And when you can reframe that and be like, I'm going to show up as the best version of me, I just need to get some help and learn how.
That's right.
That does require an investment. And usually, whether it's investment in time or money, there's a lot of free ways to get fit. We could do a whole other podcast on that too. But investing in learning how to become your best self.
Exactly.
That is what happens in the coaching process. Like, movement and macros, like we said, you can get that on Google or ChatGPT these days. But it's the how, it's the why, it's the person that's going to point things out to you. That's where the value comes in.
Absolutely.
That's right. And it's navigating the obstacles and helping you persevere through that. And isn't one of the coolest things, I'm sure we've all had this experience, where a client will say to you, they've been with us, they've made change, and they realize that it's not just the physical change, it's everything. It's quite literally life-changing. But they'll say, I'm the fun mom now.
Yes.
I'm the cool mom now. I'm the mom who
gets in the picture.
Yes, all the things. That to me is probably one of the coolest things about coaching, that we get to see this not only physical transformation, but it's like this entire self-identity transformation. I love that. I love it. All right. So we have now called out these 5 self-limiting beliefs. We hope you're not feeling too called out, but we also do want you to really reflect and see, like, am I telling myself any of these things? So now we want to kind of shift gears and dive into the steps that are actually going to help you shift this mindset. So we're going to kind of reframe and reinforce these new beliefs. So Coach Jorah, take us away.
All right. So we know that it's not a one and done process. So whichever one is really speaking to you right now, or maybe there's multiple limiting beliefs that you're feeling like, oh, maybe it's all of them. Holy. At one point in my life, it was all five of them, if I'm being truly honest.
Absolutely.
And so the skill that you want to practice is that you really want to know that this is a journey. This is a process. You're not going to eliminate 75% of your negative thoughts overnight just because you've drawn awareness to it. There's a process to doing this, and there's a process to replacing those thoughts with more positive ones and things that are going to support you in your life. So the first is really recognizing the belief and challenging it. So start by noticing your thoughts and where you start to get stuck. And when I say stuck, it's like, what do you ruminate on? What is the thought that is repeating in your head? I'm not good enough, or I'm selfish if I do this, or I have to do this for everyone else before me. Think about it. Is it actually true? And T, you said this. How has it served you in the past? You need to sit with it and ask yourself the tough questions. Whose thought is this? Is it true? And instead of, I can't do this, maybe you start to ask yourself, what would it look like if I did? And try it out for size. Start to challenge that thought. So awareness is step one, with recognizing the belief, so naming it, and then starting to challenge it. Step two is replacing that belief with an empowering truth. So when you're working on this journey, some of these things will happen more naturally for some thoughts than other thoughts, but everything's going to work at its own pace. And so really replacing negativity with possibility. So when the limiting belief comes up for you, you can replace it with a truth that's going to empower you and help you feel capable and make it more manageable. So if your belief is, I'm too busy for this, maybe the reframe, like we talked about, is I can start small and build from here.
That's right.
And this is actually where my mantra came from, which was peaceful success. It's like, how do I create peace and success in every area of my life, whatever the definition, in relationships, in wealth, in business, in, health, all of those areas. And reinforcing that mantra for me really helped me be like, okay, am I showing up in a way that's going to create peaceful success? What does that look like for me? So that's my reframe. And the third here is using visualization to reinforce the narrative you're trying to create. So there's a reason why athletes lean into visualization so heavily. They sit down and they literally imagine the entire stadium filled with 60,000 fans screaming their names, cheering, maybe booing for, them because they're on the opposing team side. They feel the cold air. They feel the ball, let's say it's football. They can feel their cleats, sticking into the turf below them. And again, I'm no footballers.
I can feel myself there. You're doing good.
Good. Okay. You can feel the cold air, because it's fall turning winter. Maybe it's the first snowfall and you're heading out there and you're the quarterback. You're the one who has to make this happen. And you feel some of that pressure, but you're like, I'm going to do it anyways. And you kick that ball out or you catch that ball or whatever you do and you get the touchdown. You got the points.
Yep.
This is why they do it. They visualize that repetitive behavior thousands of times because our brains, they don't know the difference between a thought and an actual experience, right? We can create the reality by visualization. And this is why athletes do it. So take the time to visualize what success looks like for you when you're reframing each one of these things, because that is where you'll derive it. And also take a moment, because there's a Forbes study that said people who vividly describe or picture their goals to themselves are 1.2 to 1.4 times more likely to be successful in accomplishing their goals. So there is data behind it. There's science behind it. Athletes do it, and you should too. Step 4 is take tiny actions that align with your new belief. We've talked about this a lot on the podcast. So whether it's a 1-minute meditation, whether it's a 5-minute walk, whether it is drinking that glass of water in the morning or starting your warm up of your workout when you're not feeling like it, just to get yourself going. Whatever it is for you, if you start, the odds are you're going to continue and finish.
That's right.
And the last one here is stay connected to a supportive community. This is part of our soul, I think, as Get Sculpted, is don't do this alone.
Yeah.
Show up, share your wins, share your challenges, be vulnerable, connect with others, because you are showing someone that the path is successful and someone else is showing you the path that you need to walk next. So
100%.
Keep that up and lean into a community if you don't have one. And so now we want to turn these into an actual action. T, do you want to bring us home with how we take our newfound beliefs and make them real?
Yeah, absolutely. I love action steps, as you guys know, because the thing is, on this podcast in general, we don't want you guys to leave with fluff ever. We want you to know, what do I need to actually do to apply this? Because don't get me wrong, none of what we're saying is fluff. But if you're just thinking like, hey, I want to change my beliefs, let's talk about what your next steps are to actually do that. Because it's not just a matter of, okay, I'm going to flip the switch today. There's things that we want to reinforce. So the first step is identifying that you have these beliefs, and then it's actually seeing what you're going to do to turn those into action. So there's 3 things here that we're going to list out. Number 1 is you want to make sure that you take action before you feel ready. Don't wait for the stars to align. Don't wait for the perfect moment or January or whatever holiday to pass, because the longer that you delay things, you're sending the message that this is only something that you do when things are perfect, and life is not perfect by nature.
That's right.
The only constant thing in life is change. So you need to learn to adapt the new behaviors and overcome these self-limiting beliefs by just taking messy action. That's number 1.
Love that.
And with that comes number 2, which is embracing imperfection. So know that you're a human being, and you're not going to flip a switch and immediately be this 2.0 version of yourself. No. You're going to take steps toward it, but you can't let the guilt of going off track hold you back from making further progress. This is the number 1 thing I tell my clients. They're like, gosh, Tiana, I planned to like not drink at this party, and I drank a ton. And I'm like, girl, we've all been there. And it's not the one night that you ate and drank more that's going to set you back. It's actually what you do after, which is telling yourself these self-limiting beliefs. I suck. I can't do this. I'm a failure. I always like do this. And then you're like, well, I might as well not do it anymore. So the way that you're going to overcome the self-limiting belief is by not letting that imperfection get you down. And number 3 is to measure progress in multiple ways. So it means, number 1, we don't want to go 0 to 100. I think this is really important to highlight. So, for example, if someone has a big change they want to make in their physique, I want to lose, let's say, 50 pounds, and I want to have a 6-pack, and right now you're 50 pounds overweight. Well, you're not going to get to just that 50-pound weight loss goal instantly, number 1, and it's not going to take one action. This is exactly what we talked about in the last episode. So I know I said this earlier, but go back and listen to that, because it comes down to visualization and setting those SMART goals. But we really want to focus on looking at other milestones that you achieve along the way of becoming that kind of person. Like, okay, I want to navigate my next holiday without skipping meals and binging. I want to set up the habits where I'm training 3 times a week and I'm eating XYZ with XYZ eating patterns. So this way you're quantifying this progress, not just looking at it in a very short-sighted way. And the one quote that I'll leave that with in terms of the actions is, how you do anything is how you do everything. So the actions that you take, when you make these changes, they're going to benefit every area of your life. It's not like I'm like, okay, I'm going to get fit tomorrow, but I'm going to be a piece of you-know-what to like everyone in my life, and I'm going to be grumpy and I'm going to whatever. No, you're probably going to wake up on time, be productive, be nice to your spouse, your kids. Once you make a change in one area, that's the beauty of it. It's going to compound in every other area. So
I love that.
Merritt,
yeah,
take us home on like how we can tie this all together.
Before I do that too, while you were talking, I was just thinking, you know, we always talk about how everything we do is applicable to everything else. And the 3 things you said, starting before you're ready, embracing imperfection, and then like measuring progress in multiple ways. These are principles to apply to everything you do.
Literally everything.
Your relationships, your career, everything you do. I'm just thinking, like, I could apply this to a million different things I do.
The podcast.
Everything, right? Like, these are just beautiful principles to live by, I think. And if you're listening, definitely think about how this can apply to all areas of your life. So we covered a ton in this episode. I feel like every episode I'm like, this is my favorite. But this one is huge because I think so many of us are plagued by self-limiting beliefs, and they really do keep us stuck. I can speak to that personally. And they hold you back from your goals, and they really hold you back from like a completely different reality that you could be building for yourself, right? But now we know what they are, how to reframe them, how to create empowering thoughts around them. And that's what's going to move you forward. So I want you to remember, your beliefs shape your actions, and your actions create your reality.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing you need to do right now is take action,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think that's like the big takeaway. Please take action. Small action.
Any action.
Yes, any action is good action. So for all of you listening, we do want to leave you with a little bit of homework for this episode. Want you to think about what is one belief that you are actually going to let go of and reframe today? And what is the action you're going to take to prove your new belief is real? We would actually love to know what you come up with. So as always, send us a message, share it with us on socials. Don't forget to tag us because we love cheering you on. We are just so happy when we get to see the impact that we are making. And if this episode struck a chord with you, please be sure to share it with a friend who also needs to hear this. And we would love it if you could rate and review this podcast too, so we can reach more amazing women like you. And don't miss next week's episode because this is another good one. We are going to be talking about how to optimize your metabolism so you can stay lean for life. That's a good one. It's going to be an awesome one.
I'm excited.
All right. Well, we will talk to you next week. Have a good one.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Get Sculpted. We hope you feel inspired, empowered, and ready to take the next step in your fitness journey. Remember, building your 2.0 body is a unique journey for you. It's about showing up for yourself consistently and not being perfect.
If you loved today's episode, don't forget to hit subscribe and leave us a review and tag us on social at getsculpted.ca. Your feedback helps us reach more women like you who are ready to cut through the noise and make lasting changes.
For more daily tips, inspiration, and behind-the-scenes content, follow us on Instagram and check out our handles in the show notes below. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time on Get Sculpted. Until then, remember this: getting sculpted isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter.